Welcome to today's deep dive. Imagine the world's most exclusive, hardest to reach hardware store for green tech.
Yeah, and a really, really cold one.
Right, like completely freezing. We're talking about Greenland's 20% ice-free coast. It is essentially stocked with rare earth elements, EV battery graphite, all the raw materials you and I need to build the future. Our mission today is to synthesize the data and figure out why no one can seem to get the doors to this store open.
Well, what's fascinating here is the sheer desperation to get inside. Right now, China controls like 85 to 90% of the world's rare earth refining capacity.
Oh, wow, that much.
Yeah, it's a massive global bottleneck. So for the US and the EU, Greenland is really the primary escape route from that monopoly.
Okay, so let's unpack this. If the West is that desperate, and there are these huge deposits just sitting there.
Just waiting to be dug up.
Right, it's like the Cavanfield project. The reports say it has 11 million tons of rare earths. Why aren't we digging them up? I saw a note in the data about 300 parts per million of uranium holding it up.
Yeah, that is the core issue.
But why is such a tiny trace amount enough to paralyze a multi-billion-dollar project? Can't they just, separate out the uranium and take the green minerals?
Well, it's not quite that simple because of how these minerals actually form underground. It's not like picking bad berries out of a basket, It's more like trying to unbake a cake.
Oh, because they're chemically bound together.
Exactly. The rare earth elements are locked up with that radioactive uranium. Trying to separate them without causing an environmental disaster is super hard. And in 2021, the Inuit Ataqatigiit Party passed this really strict ban.
Right, they capped the uranium byproduct at just 100 parts per million.
Yeah, to protect the local indigenous fishing and hunting grounds.
Which makes total sense.
Yeah.
But it effectively traps those 11 million tons behind a radioactive red card. And I guess that explains these staggering $11.5 billion arbitration lawsuit against the government right now.
Yeah, the project is completely paralyzed.
But what about Tambries? That deposit avoids the uranium ban altogether, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. But the geology there throws up a totally different roadblock. The rare earths at Tambries are inside this highly complex silicate mineral called eudialyte.
Okay, and why is that so tricky?
Well, to get the valuable materials out, you practically have to dissolve the rock with boiling, highly aggressive acids.
In a pristine sub-zero environment.
Right. Pulling off that level of intense chemical engineering in the extreme cold is just a logistical nightmare.
So even if companies somehow solve the chemical puzzle without breaking environmental laws, they still have to physically move the material out of the Arctic.
Which brings us to the geography.
Yeah, geography is brutal.
Yeah, like the Citroen Zinc project at 83 degrees north. It's like finding a winning lottery ticket on Mars. Great, but how do you cache it? You absolutely need heavy-duty civilian icebreakers to export anything from that far north.
And neither Greenland nor Denmark actually owns any.
Wait, really? None. None. Which forces us to look at the Arctic paradox. Think about the Momjerg project. With its defense-grade molybdenum, or Amit Sock's EV battery graphite. To supply the EU, companies have to build massive industrial infrastructure, deep water ports, roads.
Right in the middle of a super fragile ecosystem.
Yeah, an ecosystem that is actively melting away due to the exact same climate change these green minerals are supposed to help us fight.
That is quite the paradox. So, if you're listening to this and wondering how a local fishing regulation or a lack of icebreakers impacts you, remember that the supply chain for your next electric vehicle or your smartphone screen might hinge entirely on navigating this shifting, frozen landscape.
And for Greenland, the stakes are completely existential. Right now, their fiscal autonomy relies heavily on an annual block grant from Denmark.
But under their Self-Government Act, any mineral revenue they generate directly offsets that Danish subsidy.
Right, exactly. So this mining push isn't just about feeding Western supply chains. For Greenland, extracting these minerals is the literal path to financing their own sovereign independence.
Which leaves us with this fascinating geopolitical chess match to chew on. Under current laws, replacing that massive Danish subsidy requires Western mining investments to succeed. But what if the logistics prove too extreme?
Like the missing icebreakers, the cold, the chemistry?
Yep. If a fully independent Greenland can't get the West to build their infrastructure, could they eventually turn back to China, who already dominates the Polar Silk Road?
Yeah, absolutely could.
Which would mean the West finally makes it to the most exclusive green tech hardware store on Earth, only to find their biggest geopolitical rival already owns the building. That completely flips the entire U.S. and EU security strategy on its head.